Hello, hello. I had a meeting that finished at 2, so I am 2 minutes late. Oh my gosh. But I'm not set up yet, so that's okay. I'm gonna have to move my needle minder today. So I'm just gonna wait until 5 minutes past again. I finished my leaf last night, like I said I was going to. I went out and grabbed some more of my missing floss, so that was slightly embarrassing yesterday. Oh, my desk is such a mess. I cleared it yesterday and now it's a mess again. Hello, people joining. I'm just gonna wait until 5 past to let people jump on. Whoever wants to jump on. I'm just peeling stickers off some washi tape that I also bought yesterday. Oh, I missed. There's a super cute little washi tape. It's got cats that are in like baked goods. It was $1, so I thought, why not? Hello! Just gonna give it 1 more minute. And super important things like putting a strip of washi tape in my bullet journal. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna want to have that. And that, and all that. I'll just give it like 30 more seconds. Let people join. Alright, so today we are gonna do bullion stitch, and I will not be surprised if I do not get through more than 1 flower, because this is a very frustratingly long stitch to do. I'm just trying to find my second needle because today we are going to need 2 needles. I might just attach that here actually, so I don't forget which one it is. So the bullion stitch is going to be these yellow flowers, and it's not a difficult stitch to do. I guess I'm probably making it more difficult than it ought to be because I want it, so keep this in mind. You don't have to use 2 needles to get the look for the bullion stitch. It's going to make it a little bit quicker because the second needle makes each little stitch chunkier. So it takes up more space. And if you are just using 1 needle, you'll find that your piece won't look like this exactly, and that's okay. All of these are, individual. So I'm gonna move my phone now so that I can't get in as close as I was yesterday. I'm gonna go turn off the light again because you've got shadows. So I'll just be 1 sec. yeah, so as I was saying, I can't get in as close as I was yesterday because I'm gonna need space to like stick my hands in the way. So hopefully that distance is good. If it's not, let me know and I will adjust as needed. Just gonna bring up my chat on my computer so that I can check what you guys are saying and not miss anything. Oh. I need to hear myself through my headset. Okay, and I need this. So today we are going to use DMC 3822, which is, of the two yellows, it's the lighter color. We're going to use all 6 strands again, which is not that. Actually, is that? No, it's 2. And you're going to need a long, like a long cut of thread, as long as you can manage and deal with pulling through. It is going to get a little, it is going to get a little annoying to begin with, but don't worry, it'll get shorter really quick. I'm just threading my needle, and that's a huge amount that I've got there. We're going to do our quilter's knot again to begin with, so I'll show you how to do that. We just want to pinch and wrap 1, 2, 3 times, pinch it with our other hand, or unless you're ambidextrous, then you can just pull it straight through. And that just creates our nice little knot. So, to begin with, we want to start in the very center, and we want to work our way around and around and around all the way to cover the line, like the outer circle. You kind of want it to sit close to the leaves, and the big flower in the center is going to sit over the top. Yeah, we don't want it to have huge gaps in the piece, so that's why we're going to go over this line. But yeah, to begin with, we want to start in the center. I might actually draw so that you guys can see. So our center is about there. I think this pen's dying. And we're going to go across. We're going to kind of do a triangle in a way. And sort of like that to begin with. I always have trouble sketching this out to begin with. So like that'll be our start, and that's going to cover the center. If it doesn't, we can always just do like a little knot in the middle. So we're going to come up at the start of one end, pull through, and then we're going to come in at the end of the line, but don't pull through. Ow, I'm going to move that for now. In one end of the line and then come out of the other end, and then we're going to get our second needle, and from the other end you can either get one that's not sharp and just lay it next to the other one, but I actually like poking it through so that it sits next to the first needle, and then you grab both of them, and then we're just going to wind. We want it to be, I'll count how many stitches, winds I do this time. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I'm just going to, 14, 15, visualize. So it really depends on how many, or how far away your needle is from here to here. But visualize roughly the same length of winds as it is here. So I'm doing 15 because I want it to curl a little bit. but you might find if you're using less than 6 strands, or if your distance is smaller or shorter, that you might want to do a different amount. But from there, I'm going to pull out the second needle. I'm going to pinch I'm going to keep my finger here so that we still have the same tension on the thread. And then we have to, and I know this is covering up, I'm trying not to, we want to pull through while hanging on to the tension of this amount of floss. We're going to pull all the way through, still holding on to it, and then we want to just help it roll over. And then to even it out, we just run our needle underneath gently, don't pull too hard until it's all flat, and then go back in to where so we came up here and then we went back in and came up again. So we're going back into where we came out. No, where we went in, sorry. And that's your bullion stitch. Once we get a few more under our belts, doesn't matter where you come up or like where you start the stitch from. So I started the other one here and I came up here. I'm just doing it this way for ease, because normally I would twist my work around so that this is easier to do, but then you guys wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm using my right hand to just actually bend the fabric out of the way. Okay, and then I get my second needle, poke it in next to the other one, and that just thickens it up a bit. And then grab all my floss. I'm going to do 15 again. So you want to make sure that you don't go over the top of any other previous ones. So you don't want to be like doing it like that where it would sit on top of the other ones. You want it to all lay all next to each other, all flat and nice and neat. And then I'm going to pull out the second needle. I'm trying. There we go. And then pull it through and guide it over, get the bit of fluff out of the way. And then just let it sit over the top of the other one. Go back in where we came out. Hang on. I have to undo that one. I've got a massive bit of thread underneath, so to undo it I need to actually physically unwind it, those 15 wraps. Would take me like no time to do normally. Actually, you know what? It would be easier if I don't have the needle on it. I will use it to help me guide them through. There we go. This is my stingy side where I don't want to just cut it off and start it again. I would rather salvage the thread So my apologies. But I guess this shows you how to undo what you did. So I'm now just going to pull it out. We'll try that again. There we go. Yeah, I had a big, it tangled at the back and I didn't realize. So we'll try that again. I'm going to go back in, come back out, and the same pull through. Stick the other needle in. And then rewind. Get back to where we were. 1, 2, 3. One thing you want to make sure is you're catching both of the needles and not just going in between them by accident, because that will change the width of your stitch. Midway through, which won't look very nice. There we go. Alright. And to sort of help it along, because you can see this end's a little bit bunched up and this end's not, we can literally just put our needle underneath it and then just wiggle the strands into position. Alrighty. So I'm going to start here, on this side deliberately, purely because this strand is now in the way, and I don't want to catch it. There we go. Alright, so that's the start of our flower. Like I said, if you find that you've got a big hole in the middle, you can always just do some French knots or something pretty like that. But you will find that doing other stitches, it will like squish in on itself. But now we just want to start filling in the rest of it. You want to overlap as much as possible, but not as much as possible. You want to overlap each time, but not too much. This is such a weird angle. I'm sorry. So again, I'm going to be eyeballing how many wraps around. I did 15 on the other ones, but now, whoops, now that we're not in the 3 middle ones, I want to make sure that it will wrap around here. So I haven't actually counted how many wraps I've done this time. Let's do 2 more. Okay. Going to pull out the second needle, push through the other one. You should see the look on my face. I'm trying not to make a mess, which I just did. Is it savable? We shall see. Yeah, that's okay. So to help the end of it, as you can see here, I've got like a little tail, and it's really hard to pull that through. I'm just going to, again, use my little needle trick and just shimmy it along, and then you can use your needle or your nail here and just pull it tight until it sits flat. There we go. There's our fourth one. As you can see, that one is squishing in the two that it's next to, and that will squish in the middle. So that you don't have a big gaping hole in the middle of your flower. Other things you can do, if you haven't started stitching yet, you can always do like a little satin stitch if you know what that stitch is. You can do it just like in a little square in the middle of the darker yellow that is part of the pattern. Just to give it some depth if you so desire. That is up to you. Yeah, that'll do. A lot of this is eyeballing. Get the second needle out, push the first one, come on. I'm not very good with my left hand. There we go. Cool, and now we just wiggle it around, even it out, flatten it up. And then go back in. Come on. And remember, you don't want them to all look super perfect. This is, you know, flowers in the wild are not all perfect. I'm going to be able to do one more with this cut of thread, and then I'll have to get some more. Stick the other needle in. Alright, so that was 18 wraps, because I undid one. For anyone who would like a set amount of wrap numbers to do. And work your needle back in. And that's the start of our flower. Yay! They are going to eventually get longer and longer, the bullion stitches, because you will need to cover more space for each one. Oops. Alright, so that one was 20. This is so lovely to watch, thank you. And nice to see an Aussie stitcher. Ah. Well, I am Australian, but I actually live in America. So right now it's almost 2:30 for me. But are you from Australia as well? Because that would be awesome. I did kind of pick a 2 p.m. time for me so that my fellow Australians might be able to watch if they wished. I know it's pretty early over there for East Coast and it's too early for West Coast. Right, we got a nice little mess on the back here, which lends for good tying off knots. So one thing you do want to be careful of is pulling too tight, because you're going to pull your fabric and bunch it all up and pinch it. So you can see you may not be able to see actually, but there's a little bit here of the fabric where it's starting to pinch in. So I'm just going to need to watch out for that. I don't want to make my fabric all deformed when it is done. But I'm going to need some more floss. Gosh, I hope I got more of the right colour. Yes, I did. I don't want to have to go back to the shop to just get one more strand of floss. I felt a little silly and a little strange actually buying just one skein of floss yesterday. I also felt very proud of myself. Normally I'm like, I could get a few. I'm just going to do my quilter's knot quickly again. There we go. I'll do here. And hopefully this is easier to pull out. So I am doing it a little different this time. I've pulled the needle through so that it's not, like the tail of it is underneath, because I'm hoping that winding it this way might be a little bit easier to do for you guys. Oh, I lost count. That's all right. So I'm just judging the distance. Again, the length that I've got here based on the length that I've got between where the needle is and where the floss is going in to figure out, do I need to do more wraps? Oh, and don't mind my hideous nails. I keep thinking to myself, I should paint my nails before I go live next. And then I forget. And I managed to slice this thumb on my mandolin slicer about 3 weeks ago. And it is taking forever to heal and grow back out. As it should. Poor thumbnail. There we go. So that's one like round. Then we've got these ones which are the next level, and these three which are the next level. And we just want to keep going out from there. They're not going to be as even now. You kind of don't necessarily want them to be that even. It's kind of just like playing fill in the flower now, in a way. But it's purely just more bullion stitches. And like I said, this has just taken me half an hour to do. It's not a fast stitch to do. But I think the end result looks good. So what I'm doing right now is I noticed that I wasn't pulling it tight enough when I started winding, and this end was really loose and bulky. So I've literally just like twirled the thread to tighten it around the two needles, and that's just helped that. Keeps it nice and even. Trying to remember which needle is the pretend needle. Come on. I can't get the other one without sticking myself. Maybe I can get it from here. Yep. This is going to be awkward, this one. Hopefully you guys will find it a bit easier to do because you're not using an embroidery hoop. And if you are, you're at least moving it around more than I am. I'm just trying to keep it as still as possible, which is kind of tricky. Yeah. Not easy. Be able to do one more stitch with this cut. But it's getting there. Slowly but surely, you'll get there. These flowers look really nice, small. For example, if you do stitch people portraits, like I do, just doing like a couple of these, like even just the first 6 that I did, looks like a really nice little flower. They work well in a lot of situations, this flower. And they look pretty cool when you use like a very subtle variegated floss. Just because you see so much of the thread on the top of it. It doesn't get all hidden behind the back. I'm going to have to cut that off again. surprised, as you may have already known, I did try streaming my stitching back in February. I did like 2 days a week of just streaming myself working on a specific piece, and it was a lot more chatty there than you guys on here. I'm just surprised at how quiet everybody is, and I'm wondering if it's because all of you guys are working on this at the same time, whereas with the stream people were joining in to chat and see what I was doing, not work on the same thing. That's okay. I just feel bad when I have a bout of silence. Ow. Alright, where to next? Oops, pulled that through too far. We want the needle, like you can pull it through on this side, but we want the needle to stay into the fabric. Otherwise you're not going to be able to wind it around properly. So I'm doing roughly 20 wraps around, if you're wanting to copy me exactly. But I do recommend that you base how many wraps around you do on the distance that you're taking between each stitch. So I'm going to deviate now from my usual little pattern of 3 and then 3, 3 and 3, because this gap here is a lot bigger than like this gap was here. And plus, I made the center of it here, where it technically should have been like more over this side. So the flower is going to look like it's not going to look wrong, but it's going to look like it's kind of off center a bit. So there'll be more of the side of the flower here than there will be here. So that's just something to keep in mind when you are making this yourself. But the center of the flower doesn't have to be the center of the circle necessarily. So I'm going to do like here and then go in here. This is such a weird angle. I will not take stitching regularly for granted. Oh, come on. Come on, there we go. See, the fabric is starting to pull too tight there, so I'm not going to pull the floss too tight. And I've just pulled the fabric back so that it relaxes a little bit. Just more things to keep your eye on, really. You never really want to pull your thread too tight on any stitch anyway. You want it to be tight for a lot of stitches, but not to the point where you're deforming the fabric that you're stitching on. But yeah, I'm thinking, just with how long this takes, that for the other flower of this, I'm going to set it as homework for you guys and for me, because today is the last day that I will be streaming this week, and so we'll have 3 whole days to be able to catch up and be at the same page next week. And then it'll be, ow, oh, that was silly. Didn't bleed somehow. Sorry, moved it around too far. Yeah, we'll be at the same page next week, and keeping it roughly to an hour I think is good. And then Monday I have plans for what we will do. Yeah, we'll do that. I've just decided. See, I wasn't seeing it properly and I was getting the thread between the 2 needles just then. Alright, I gotta tie off that bit of thread. It got kicked out for some reason, so sorry if I missed it, but is it always 3 stitches per level and they get longer, or is there more per level? Yeah, so yeah, I did talk about that. That's okay that you got kicked out though. You don't want to keep it at 3 per like round, because the flower is not going to be perfectly centered. So once I flip it back over, I will explain again. That's not a problem. But basically because I started it slightly off center, it sort of compounds it very quickly. Let me make sure that I'm in the center and I can zoom in and explain it better. Okay, so the very center of this flower would have been about here normally, but I did it here, which means that we're going to be looking at the flower slightly off center. So as you can see, I've got this one, and this one. They're on their own like row per se. So the flower's center is it's going to have to compensate for that, where we're almost at the edge here, as you can see, but we've still got all this space here. So most of my stitches going forward are going to be filling in this empty space. So we're deviating from the usual like 3 little stitches in the middle to to being what a normal flower would do, which is have petals that cover it efficiently, I guess, for lack of a better term, because flowers want to make their petals not necessarily exact. And this is supposed to be a rose, this one here. And as you probably, if you've dissected a rose petal by petal, as a lot of little girls do, you will notice that all their petals are not in their own little set rows, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But to answer the question, no, we're not going to do 3 per level and they'll just get longer. We wanted to do 3 just to get started and give us the gaps that we need to fill in. And then once we get to those gaps, we just, I'm doing about 20 wraps around per one. So it's roughly 1.5 centimeters, which is about 5/8 of an inch, I think. Apologies if I've miscalculated that. And yeah, because we're using the 2 needles, it does take up a lot more floss, and yeah, but that's okay. This one I'm not worried about with this little gap here. This one is going to get squished up by another stitch that'll go in here at some point. So yeah, don't worry about gaps too much, unless you're doing the very last ones on the edges. So this is the finished piece. You can see this one's more circular looking, but this one I tried to make more randomized. And as long as the outer ones sit underneath the stitches, then you can't really see gaps. So, but again, it's an embroidery. It's not meant to look like exactly like the flowers. All right, I need some more floss. I'm just going to pull off the rest of this. This is probably going to annoy me for a little bit, but it's better than having 2 shorter pieces to contend with. So let me know if that answers your question. I think I did. I'm just re-threading my needle off camera just so it's a bit easier and I can rest my arms a little bit. Okay. I'm actually going to do this stitch now. Oh, and I want to start it over here where it's going to be easier to go in here and then come out again. You do find that the stitches will tend to get a bit longer as you want to cover more ground, I guess. But I definitely don't recommend doing like a stitch that would cover 1/3 of the outer edge. It just look a bit strange. Just wondering what the weird noise was that I was hearing, and it's my cat giving herself a bath. Come on, let's go. There we go. That's a lot of thread to pull through. See? Squishes it up and covers that little hole that was there. kind of glad you guys can't see my face, because every time I pull it through, I'm like pulling this. Oh god, please don't rip. Please don't poke me in the thumb face. I wouldn't expect it to rip, but I think the face is more that I don't want to be poked in the hand. So this is kind of a tricky setup that I've set up here with these three going in the same direction. I'm thinking that I'm just going to do a smaller one like this. So that one's just 18 wraps. And see, now I can kind of go from here and then do a longer one to over here, which will just make it look a little interesting. This will go through a lot of floss, by the way. If you bought new floss for this, you'll probably go through the whole skein of it. But I promise that it's worth it. It'll look pretty in the end. Oh, that one hurt. Ouch. That one looks a little funny. But that's okay, because we can just do one that fills in here. What is that? Okay, it's just the fabric being silly. Yeah, we can just do a little squishy one in the middle. Come on. I would normally be using my needle minder to store the other needle, but I'm afraid I'm going to stick myself with it. And I'm already sticking myself with the other one, the other needle while using it. So I'm kind of hesitant too. So I actually really like how this edge is sitting. So I'm going to fill in the rest of this flower, and I'm looking at the time and it is getting later than I hoped. But I'm probably actually not going to go past this line here, this blue line. Because yeah, I quite like how that's sitting at the moment. come on. I just need to give my back a rest for just a second. Oh, excuse me. Right, I can probably do one more bullion knot with this cut of thread. Not a lot of thread left. Okay, I'm going to cut that off. Snip. Okay, I need to grab some from this now. Can't believe people leave it on those. They don't wind this onto a bobbin. What happens when this doesn't sit on it anymore? That just confuses me. Makes it look nice when you do flat lays for photos. Just so used to bobbinating my floss, I guess. So, if you have any questions or any concerns or anything like that, or if you just want to say hi, let me know in the chat if you're live, because I will be saving this and putting it on YouTube. So, if you're watching this after the fact, send a message in the comments below, like and subscribe, haha. Yeah, let me know if you've got any questions. I'm happy to answer anything that people may have. Hopefully this stitch is relatively self-explanatory after doing it about 20 times. this is basically all that you do for this flower. The sun's come back out from behind the clouds. But this is looking good, I think. We're almost done. And we definitely will set the other flower up as homework. My cat is trying to be as cute as possible to get my attention. I'm busy, kitty. I think she's just enjoying the sun as well. And I would hazard a guess that once you've done enough of these, you'll be able to easily, well, not easily, but guess better how many wraps around the needles you'll need to do to make it sit the way you want it to sit. And like, we can go in and just rearrange them like this. You don't want to pull the little strands, you want to be pulling the... So, I guess I haven't explained how this works. So there's a strand of thread that's running through the center of all of these wraparounds, and that's what's holding it all in place. And so if you were to pull on one of these, I'll use the other end of the needle. If you were to pull on one of these, it would tighten all the ones next to it, and it would look silly. You'd have this one little strand that's sitting up higher than the rest. But if you get underneath it all, then you can start wiggling around and flattening out all of the wraparounds, and also adjusting where it's sitting. So like I can stick my needle in there and make these middle ones a bit higher, or make like this one sit higher. Yeah, you can adjust how it looks by doing that. I'm actually quite happy with this. I'm going to do one more down here so that I don't have this gap here. And then I'm going to call that for the day. Hopefully you guys are happy with yours as well. Maybe you're ahead of me and maybe you're doing flower number 2 already. But yes, your homework before Monday is to make sure that you have both of the yellow flowers done, because we are going to be doing stuff that sits over the top of them on Monday. See, I can just smush that around and make it sit the way I want it to sit, like that. Excellent. All right, I'm going to just cut off that before I accidentally undo my work there. And snip. Cool. So we did our bullion stitch. We did one of the 2 flowers. We used the 2 needles. So I would tell you, but I don't know what size this is. But it is relatively thick. I would guess it's like a 20, maybe a 20 or 22 size needle. I'm really bad at needle sizes, and I apologize. But yeah, that's our flower. So yeah. My chat just got all strange. I apologize. Yeah, so that's our flower. We're going to do this one, which is actually a tiny bit smaller. So it shouldn't take as long. And once you've got all of this done, you'll be ready for Monday, where we're going to do the little buds here, here, and here. And we're going to do colonial knots, because these ones aren't going to take very long to do. And the colonial knots shouldn't either. And if they do, I'll show you how to do both of them, and then it'll be homework again. So sorry to give you homework. I didn't intend on that. But I guess it's all homework, because you guys are doing it on your own time. Anyway, thank you for joining. And thank you for watching. If you're after the fact, this is what we're making. We're getting there. I'll do a side-by-side comparison. So we're pretty close. Pretty close. We've got 2 more stitches that we haven't learnt yet. So, and one of them has 2 variations. So I guess 3 stitches, but either way, thank you for joining, and I can't wait to see how you guys do. Use the hashtag TLKSAL so that I can see your work, and everyone else can see your work and see how you're going, and we can psych ourselves up for it. And yeah, so thanks very much, and have a good weekend. And if you can, get outside, get some sun, and don't forget to drink lots of water. Otherwise, I will see you all on Monday.